Okay, so thank you, Carolyn. Yeah, so today I'm going to talk about cartography with CARTO Builder. And a couple of notes. I tried to put a lot of different maps in here, and they're all maps that were made with CARTO. So if you get inspired to make maps after you see some of the things that are possible with our tool, I'm super excited because I really want cartographers to start using CARTO more for design. I also wanted to mention that I'm going to try and pack in a lot today, and I won't be able to explain every single thing because I want to do a demo, but my colleagues Andy and Steph are here as well if they just want to say hi. So please feel free to find one of us anytime during the week to ask us questions or for more information or whatever it may be. Okay, so last year when I was at NACIS, I had just started working at a company called CartoDB, and as of July 7th of just a few months ago, we are now CARTO. And so I just don't really want to talk like a ton about this, but I think it's a couple of questions have come up. I had to change the title of my talk, etc. And basically, going from CartoDB to CARTO was a shift within inside of the company and our way of thinking and the kind of tools and services that we offer. By dropping the DB, our CartoDB editor was very developer-centric, and to have to do all of the amazing things that you can do with our technology, you had to have a lot of different coding skills, from SQL to Carto CSS to JavaScript. And now, I think hopefully through my demo, you'll be able to see that that's not the case anymore. And so that's why we've dropped the DB, and that's why we're CARTO. And a lot of the work that I'm going to show today is from a lot of passionate, amazing people that are my colleagues. So this is CARTO. We are in Spain, in the US, in Estonia, in England, and different places around the world. But this is really exciting for us as a company, and a lot of passion and thinking has gone into the things that I'm going to show you today. So within that larger company, as Carolyn mentioned, I work on the research and data team. And what we are tasked with is researching and testing different methods that we can then write into product and get into the development cycle. So our areas of focus are data, analysis, and cartography. And these are a lot of things that you could do with that you can do with the editor, but we've been testing, coming up with solutions, trying things, and finally in the builder, like all of that coding and all of that kind of stuff that you need is now exposed in some easy to use interfaces. But all of the power of the DB is still behind there. So I've had the fortune over the past year of just making maps with CARTO, and before I had joined, I had never made a map in CartoDB at that time. And also my background is in base map design. That's what I've spent a lot of my professional career doing. So kind of moving over to the thematic side and seeing really what we could do with CARTO. And based on my kind of tests and playing around, and a lot of stuff I do is just for fun, to try different ideas out, we found some patterns in there and things that we wanted to offer to everybody to have, because the cartographic capabilities in the editor were not as up to par as the analysis and database capabilities. So over the years at NACIS, we've talked a lot about this, the base map and the overlay. And at CartoDB, we've seen like leaps and bounds in the base map space. We saw a couple great presentations today just about that. At Carto, we are focused more on the data layer, so the information that's on top of the base map. And so, again, this flows very much into what our research team does with the kind of data analysis and design pipeline. And so I can't, again, in the interest of time, I can't talk about all the pieces, but there's a couple of things that I wanted to highlight from the cartographic side that have been added into Builder and that you will have access to soon. I've also put up a few links up here to our blog, to our webinar page, and to our Map Academy. And these are all really great resources if you're somebody that is using the editor and is interested in understanding the Builder, or if you've never used the editor but are interested in using the Builder. There's a lot of great pieces of information throughout our website, but I'm highlighting these three. Okay, so one of the new pieces of Builder is a new set of color palettes, and these are called Carto Colors. And very similar to Color Brewer, they're kind of broken up into three different categories of color palettes: sequential, diverging, and qualitative. These aren't meant to replace Color Brewer. In the Builder, Color Brewer palettes are still available, but we did some customization on these. So these are a complement to that set, so you don't see very many duplications in colors and things like that. Some of the things that we did were think about adding a few more multi-hue ramps, because when you're talking about data visualization, having more color differentiation in the palettes helps tell the story visually. We've also designed palettes specific for certain map types and things that you can do in the Builder. So, for example, with our aggregation methods, we have a few palettes that are designed specifically for aggregation, because not all of the palettes work as well. So these are more saturated and bright, and that yellow, for example, really pops out. We've also spent time thinking about how to use color palettes for comparison. So when you're comparing two variables, in this example, we're comparing primary results from Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. And so what we did is matched a couple of palettes that match their lightness on either end and through the palette. So one color is not perceived as darker or lighter or more important than the other. Another area that we're currently exploring and working on are palettes for the results of analysis. So if you're doing a cluster analysis and you want to see the high and the low ends of that, how can we help our users visualize that and go straight to insight? And I think one of the most important things is that our Carto colors have been designed specifically for our most commonly used base maps, which are dark matter and positron. And so what I mean by that is that we've kind of capped off the lightness on one end, so on the dark map, the color doesn't totally disappear, and we've capped the lightness on the light end, so the light color doesn't totally disappear. If you've used Carto and you apply transparency and stuff like that, sometimes you will notice that your lowest class will just completely not be visible on the map. And this is also a function of kind of doing the multi-hue ramps. And another thing that we're working on for thematic cartography is something called Turbo Carto. And so a lot of you also know about Carto CSS. CARTO CSS was really developed for base map design, and we are still using CARTO CSS. So when you go into Builder, you can do all the CARTO CSS you want, but we're building on top of it with something called Turbo CARTO. And Turbo CARTO, where CARTO CSS is for base map design, Turbo CARTO is more meant for thematic map design. And so it is a CARTO CSS preprocessor. So what does that mean? With traditional CARTO CSS, and if you made a choropleth map in the editor, you would classify your data, pick your number of class breaks, and things like that. And then your output CARTO CSS would look something like this. And so if your data changed, you would have to go back in, reclassify your data, and go through the whole process again. Now with Turbo CARTO, you can make this exact same map, but with one line of CARTO CSS. So here what we're doing is we're using something called a ramp. So basically ramping the variable master's degree over these colors for the quantiles method using 5 class breaks. And so what happens with this, because this is now dynamic. So if, for example, I added more block groups to my data set, then those would automatically draw. I wouldn't have to compensate for that new data and reclassify and all that kind of stuff. Same with categorical maps. So here, before making a bivariate map with CARTO CSS can become a very large thing of CARTO CSS. But now you can see that using this kind of same thinking that with marker fill, we're ramping the attribute complaint, which is a category. And then for the marker width, we're ramping a numeric attribute from 6 pixels to 40 using the quantiles method again with 5 class breaks. Okay, so that's kind of a harsh like transition here, but we wanted to get in a demo. So this Alistair Ray, he is a professor in Sheffield, and when Builder came out, he had tweeted this really cool like flow map from census tract to census tract, and he has done it for the whole country. And he has a paper that he wrote about his method for it, and what he did is he brought that data into Builder, and then a lot of questions that you're not able to infuse into a map symbol, you can start exposing with something called widgets. And so we wanted to take a stab at like recreating this, obviously on a much smaller scale and at the county level and just for Colorado. So yeah, so let's just go into it. And again, you're gonna see a lot of new stuff, and I have about 8 minutes, so I'm gonna probably just go through things a little faster than I would like. But and Matthew, this is dedicated to you. It's funny that there's 2 flow maps today. So the data that I'm using in this map is from the census. ACS data, and I have one layer of the county population centroids here, and so quick look at the attributes. I had to do a little bit of things like concatenate the state and county FIPS, and that's about it. So that's this, and this has geometries attached to it. And the second data set is from ACS as well, and it's commuter flow, where people work, how they get there. And it's a large Excel table that you get. And I brought it into CARTO as a CSV, and you can see that it has no geometries associated with it. And we have some attributes in here, like how people travel, the number of people in that flow, and then similar to what I did with the other data, I concatenated the 2 state and county FIPS from residence and work. Okay, so, and I'm not, Andy's a SQL wizard, so if you have SQL questions, ask him, but I'm not a SQL wizard. So the builder for me is like awesome because I can do things that previously took me a lot longer. So the first thing that we need to do is, since we're only doing Colorado, is to select the points from the county centroids that are in Colorado. And so in here, what I've done is on the layer, I've clicked on Add Analysis. And here you can see a bunch of our different analysis methods show. So this is the first one I'm going to do is filter by column value. And I just click on Add Analysis, and it's taking this layer as my source. And I'm going to select the column state name, and it will populate with all of the values in that attribute, and I'm just going to search for Colorado. And now every time after I've run an analysis, a window will pop up telling you what it's done. And if you're not actually modifying your data when this happens, if you're familiar with PostGIS, like creating a view of your data, so this analysis kind of lives within this map. And so I'm just going to say done. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is join the geometries from this filter of Colorado to the county commuter. So to do that, I can just click on Add Analysis and join columns from a second layer. And so here what it's doing is it's, if I didn't have 1 million tables in my account, this would go a lot faster. But basically what it's doing is going through all of my tables. And so I can see like all my tables here. But actually, I want to now link it to that B1, which is the filter from the filter of the Colorado points. And I'm going to do an inner join. And I want to join with the work concatenated FIPS to the state and county FIPS. And then next, I can select where I want the geometry to come from. So since A0 doesn't have geometry, I want it from B1. And the attributes that I want from, that table, so I want I'm just going to county name of residence, state name of work, county name of work, travel mode, workers and flow, and I need the residence and work FIPS. And from the county centroids, I don't need anything. So I'm just going to do apply again, and now I have a join. So if I was to shut off our original county centroid layer, you can see that I have points that are now joined to here. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is connect with lines. And so there's a few different options for how you want to connect with lines. I'm going to connect to a source. And again, it's loading my tables and sources. So I want to connect that again to that filter. And I want to do all to all. And then group by will be from the residence FIPS to the state and county FIPS again. And now if I click apply, you can see it says it's modified the geom because now it's lines. So if I click done, there we go. I got the connections. Okay, so how many minutes do I have here? Oh, 1 minute. Okay, darn. So really what I want to show you is that I can style these lines by value with the workers in the flow, and I'm going to choose 5 classes and choose one of the more, like I was mentioning, the multi-hue ramp. And I'm going to actually just go ahead and flip it right here because, and I can also do my line width here, workers in flow. And I'm doing some redundant symbology here. And I want my minimum line width to be 0.5 to 2.5, so it's going to ramp it's going to ramp the line width between those. Oh my gosh, I have so much more to show you guys. So, since I flipped the ramp, I wanted to have it on a dark base map. And there's one other thing I wanted to do stylistically to the lines, and that was to add a compositing operation lighten, which will really help those larger flows come to the foreground. Okay, so I don't have enough time to finish this, but I wanted to show you one other really cool thing. So say I wanted to add some more, I want to augment these points with some information that I don't have. I can add another analysis, and that is called Enrich from Data Observatory. And if I click on that, I can choose, I'm gonna actually attach the number of employed workers. And so here I have a list of all of the countries that we have these measures available for, and the different measure types. And I'm going to just select employed population and click apply. And what will happen now is that I can style my points by value with employment, and I'm going to do this from 5 to 15, and now I have a map. Okay, and I'm just going to show you one really quick thing because I didn't get to show you the widgets. And so, Matthew was asking all these questions on his print map, like where are people coming from? How many people are coming from there? I can't see any of this on here. And so, again, it's really hard to put all of that in a map. But what we can do is add widgets based off the attributes in our data. And so, for example, if I wanted to isolate people who drove alone, I can easily do that. And I have a formula widget here, which is basically counting up the number of commuters. I have the kilometers that they traveled, and their county of residence, their county of work. So if we wanted to see people that drove alone from El Paso County, you can see that that comes up like that. And my histogram widget's updated with the kilometers they traveled, and 1.8 million people have done that. Okay, so I didn't get to show you adding the widgets, but I don't know, there's a widget tab and you can just add them in there. And I'm sorry to go over my time, and I would fix the legend and do all this kind of stuff, but please find me and I can finish this thing. And I also wanted to just say that I've been writing a lot of blogs about cartography, using our tools for you guys. So, proportional symbol map question came up today. Go look at these blogs. It talks about projections, thematic mapping, everything. And thank you.